My name is David Goggins. I created Goggins.
Described as one of the toughest men on the planet.
He's just an absolute savage.
He's the only man in history to complete elite training as a Navy SEAL, Army Ranger,
and the Air Force Tactical Air Controller training.
I was running this 24-hour race as a relay team. He had no teammates.
An ultramarathon runner.
Running 101 miles in 19 hours.
World records in pull-ups.
1,030 pull-ups in just 17 hours.
Hey everyone, in today's video I'll be discussing the most relevant details of the book Can't Hurt Me, written by none other than David Goggins. This book is the life story of how a man overcame the impossible to become one of the toughest people on earth. Prior to the details of this book, let's first analyze David Goggins' life story. Many regard David Goggins to have endured one of the harshest and most challenging childhoods out of any popular role model. For some context, he grew up as a black boy in New York and endured the pain of an abusive father for many years. Even after his brother, mother, and himself left their father's home, they continued to endure both poverty and racism.
I went through a horrible life when I was growing up. There was some racism thrown my way and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean that I'm not free.
While Goggins had developed a stutter and a learning disability in his early school years due to toxic stress. He cheated his entire way through school from the 4th to the 9th grade and thought of himself as having no future. When he was 24 years old, he weighed 300 pounds at 6 feet and 1 inches tall and was an exterminator at Ecolab for cockroaches. He was depressed, disappointed, and heavily insecure of who he was. Despite these unfortunate circumstances, Goggins' life had changed upon witnessing a commercial for Navy SEALs, which was the core moment where he decided that was what he wanted to become. When he weighed in at the Navy SEAL Recruitment Center, he was laughed at for being fat and black. Instead of letting go of what people viewed as a far-fetched dream, he went on to accomplish losing 106 pounds in 3 months and became the 36th black Navy SEAL in history.
I walked in the recruiter's office and he looked at me and he said, "You're fat and you're black." I said, "I want to be a Navy SEAL." He laughed at me. He said, I basically had to lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months. Roger that. I got my chocolate milkshake and walked out. And I sat there and I had time to reflect back on my life. I knew that no one was coming back to help me. I had to invent a guy that can take any pain, any suffering, any kind of judgment. It's time to be a Navy SEAL. I get my shoes on and I run a quarter mile. Come home crying. I started realizing I can't run that far. If I'm not good enough, I'm gonna make myself good enough. I developed a psychotic weight routine. I was just doing 200-300 reps, 400 reps. I'm gonna go out here and put everything on David Goggins to be a Navy SEAL. I came back 3 months later, 106 pounds lighter. Thank you.
Since then, he has become a best-selling author, ultramarathon runner and cyclist, and a motivational speaker. Now then, let's move on to the lessons Goggins shares in one of his best-selling books, Can't Hurt Me. The main idea I gathered from reading this book was Goggins' mentality to pursue pain. Rather than hiding in fear, he encourages using pain as a tool for both discipline and growth. He states that by embracing discomfort, one can extend their comfort zone and not succumb to the challenges that life throws at them. Through the many remarkable feats he has accomplished by accepting pain, he shares many methods and techniques of how to actually do it. One of these is what he calls the 40% rule. Essentially, he states that when your mind tells you to quit a task, you've only actually tapped in to 40% of your true potential. He states that our minds are programmed to make us quit early to prevent bodily harm. However, by ignoring that initial discomfort and pain, we can accomplish much more than what we ever would have thought possible. Goggins used this technique in one of his ultramarathon races, the San Diego One Day. In this race, Goggins ran 100 miles, even though he had never completed more than 25. He ignored the signals his mind was giving him and accessed the other 60% of his potential to accomplish something incredible. Another technique Goggins shares is the cookie jar. He believes that by recalling cookies or previous accomplishments, you can push beyond your perceived limits and overcome challenges that you are currently facing. Goggins took advantage of this when running 135 miles in Death Valley. When he was hallucinating, enduring kidney failure, and had broken bones, he remembered how he lost 106 pounds in 3 months, overcame an abusive childhood, and even became a Navy SEAL. He even went on to state in an interview that he didn't even notice the heat.
I had broken feet at the start line of a 135-mile race.
Whatever you do, runners, right now, just don't think about the 135 miles of scorching highway in front of you.
How was the heat for you?
I didn't even notice it.
Another piece of advice Goggins shares has to do with goal setting. Unlike many who set goals and never accomplish them, Goggins incorporated a method into his life to consistently remind himself of what needs to get done. Goggins created an accountability mirror on which he would paste sticky notes with the goals he had as well as the steps needed to actually accomplish them. Each day, Goggins would look at his reflection in the mirror and come face to face with reality by talking to himself about his shortcomings, accomplishments, and future steps needed to become better. Rather than crafting excuses, Goggins effectively assessed his progress and used this as a tool to remind himself of what objectives he has. Taught to him by his mother, Goggins would always take responsibility for his actions and visualize his goals to actually make long-lasting progress towards them. According to the quote, "Knowledge without action is meaningless. It is critical to apply the lessons you learn to become a better version of yourself." Therefore, I have started to take multiple steps to apply the lessons I learned from Can't Hurt Me into my very own life. An example of this could be what I like to call the accountability spreadsheet. Similar to how Goggins would track his goals, I developed a habit tracker on Google Sheets to visualize the progress I make towards the objectives that I set. With this free resource, I enter in 3 columns. One will feature dates, while the other 2 will feature the specific goals that I desire to achieve. Each day, I will fill in the date, followed by a green box underneath the goal if I achieved it, and a red box if I did not. This active source of habit tracking allows me to see the progress I have made towards my goals and encourages me to not break the chain of consistent green boxes. Just like Goggins, I remind myself of the goals I have and assess the progress I am making towards them. All in all, I absolutely loved reading this book, and through it, my view of personal growth has completely changed. David Goggins is a role model for millions of people around the world and is empowering transformations in others. If you have not read his book yet, I would highly recommend it, as it is one of those books that can absolutely change your life. I hope you have all found this video helpful, and thank you all so much for listening.